Hello, friends, and welcome to Pathologic Volume 7, Episode 10. Before we get into today's puzzle, it is a good time to remind you that you can always play along with the puzzles by clicking on the links in the description. And I am always also looking for your puzzles. I would love to insert some more of those in between the major volumes of this series once again, as we did recently. So if you've got one or would like to tinker with one, the instructions for submitting those are over on Discord. But today we are going to be solving a puzzle from the Gap team as usual. This one is called A Country Road, and it is a loop puzzle with some interesting constraints. And I will love to solve that with you right after we take a look at the rules. Country Road is a loop genre in which we draw a non-intersecting loop through the centers of some cells, which passes through each region exactly once. The non-intersecting loop part is basically meaning we are going to be going horizontally and vertically through the grid. This particular puzzle type does not require us to visit every cell, but we are never going to enter a cell twice. That would require the intersection that is forbidden. A number in a region represents how many cells in the region are visited by the loop. So this 4 tells us we're visiting all 4 of these cells. The 2 says 2 of these 4 cells are visited. If a region has no number, it's giving us no information. And the mentioned cells have to be visited all in one pass because the loop only passes through each region one time. Orthogonally adjacent cells across a region border may not both be unused. Orthogonally means horizontally and vertically in this context. So this is saying that between these 2 cells, for instance, which are across a border, at least one of them must be part of the loop. And those are all of the rules of Country Road, so it's time to solve a puzzle. Today's Country Road puzzle was set by Eric Fox. We have some large numbers in the grid, which I think might be slightly less helpful than they are in similar puzzles. I think that the smaller numbers actually give us more information. This one in particular catches my eye because we know that exactly one cell in this region is part of the loop. And for nearly all of the cells in this region, that would be the loop entering them would be impossible without including another cell in the region. If it entered here, for example, it has to then continue. It could cross this border, but it's going to have to continue in some other direction. So the loop isn't going to need to be in a cell that touches 2 separate borders so that it can enter and exit right away. And that happens right here. The next interesting thing about that is that we have completed this region, and we care about the cells that are next to borders. And in particular, we know that these 4 cells, among others, are not visited by the loop, so the ones across the border must be visited. And because these cells are visited and have only 2 qualifying neighbors, we know how the loop travels through those particular cells. And we can move onward from that because we only are allowed to use 5 cells in this region and 5 cells in this region. And we've already taken care of 4 of them in both cases. So where's the 5th going to come from? This loose end needs to travel and get out of the region, and so the only way it can do that is to go as directly as possible. Otherwise, it's going to use up 2 cells. So it's going to have to go straight through there, and this is going to have to connect here. None of these are used by the loop. I guess I'll mark every cell just for completeness, even though we don't need to. I think that might look a little neater. But we can do exactly the same thing in this region. We've used up 4 cells. We only have 1 more to play with. And then so this end needs to escape as quickly as it can straight through there. This needs to hook up. We've used all 5. So we will mark the rest of these as not part of the loop. And across the border from these, we need to be in the loop. I keep changing my mind over whether it is messier or cleaner to mark everything. It's just aesthetic choices, but those are the things we worry about sometimes. Okay, so what can we do with this information? This corner, we know how that one works. We know less about these others. The 2 region. I should probably just move up in size from 1 to 2. We've got 1 of the 2. So that could go across a border right away, but the other side is going to have to stay within this region. So that's going to rule out everything else. This has got to go to one of these 2 places next. And the problem with this one is the loop could enter here, go over here, and leave, and we would have the 2 that we needed. But a few problems with that. One is, just from a loop perspective, this loop only has 1 entrance point here into this region, and in general, in a loop puzzle, you can't enter and exit a region an odd number of times, because then it wouldn't be a loop. That's just kind of the nature of the topology of the beast there. But it's even stronger in this puzzle, because we are told that the loop passes through each region exactly once. So we can't leave this area and come back to it. So since we have 1 crossing, we only get 1 more and exactly 1 more. So if we crossed over here, we couldn't cross again. This would need to keep going, and then we'd have more than 2 cells in this region. So those are a couple ways to see it. I think that this has to go up north and west, and then it has to go south and not enter that cell. That forces these to be in the loop because they're across from X's. We can actually do that up here as well. Might as well. And now we have 5 out of 7 here. This is a corner, so we can mark that in. So we actually have 6 out of 7. And where does this end go? If it went south, we'd need to go south, then west, and incorporate 2 additional cells, which breaks our sevenness. So this needs to go west instead, not south. We don't want to close the loop early, so this keeps going, joins up. We can't use these last 2. We've already used up our 7, so this has to keep on going there, and we'll connect up. This region, we don't know a whole lot about. I think right now, I don't see why this would be forced to go west or north. So that's probably not the next place to look. Here we've got a corner we can mark in. That gives us 4 of our 5. Same logic we've seen before. This can't go west because then it would need 2 more cells. So it goes north and out. We've got our 5 accounted for, so this is going to come out like that. The X's allow us to mark some circles, and that gives us the 3 that we get in this region. So let's just mark those in, and the loop is going to go through those and out here. We know that this is a corner, so it goes like that. We have 1 of our 2 border crossings that we are permitted in this region. We have both of the border crossings we are permitted in this region. That's big, because that means we don't cross the border up here at all, and yet have to include this cell in the loop. So we have to go around like that. This becomes a virtual corner. We can move around like that. This is now a corner. This has to keep on coming through. I think we're going to be told what happens here by virtue of what happens in the adjoining regions. Here we've got a corner, so we've got to fill that in. We now have 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 5 for this region. So this needs to get out, and we've said that it can't cross this border. So it's going to have to go north and then out one of these two directions. This comes over here, and we don't visit anything else in that region. What can we say? This corner goes like so. This is a corner. This can't close early. And how are we doing on cell count? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We only get one more. And looking at this end, if we want this to escape directly, it's going to have to go west and out here. But that's going to leave this stranded. And if this tries to escape directly, it needs one more cell, which leaves this stranded. So with the additional cell we're permitted, it's got to connect these two endpoints to each other. And this has got to escape. We now have the 9 we're allowed here. These are not part of the loop. And that defines this region, because this X tells us this is part of the loop. The loop has to enter and exit. We're now all connected. And this has to come up north, and now all we have to do is satisfy the 7 clue in this area. And we have some helpers for that, because we've got X's across the border, which we can fill in. That gives us a corner to fill in. And we have to mark 2 cells out of these 3 as not in the loop, because we've got 9 total, we need 7. So where are those 2 going to come from? If this were one of them, we have a problem, I believe, because if this is out, then we either mark this one and have a dead end here, or we mark this one and have a dead end here. We've got a dead end either way. So this is in, meaning these 2 are out. And that will give us what we need, because this now has to make a turn, can't close early, keeps going. This has to keep going through the tunnel. This has to turn north. And that is how you solve a country road.